Hello, hello, gorgeous souls. Welcome to the Mars Retrograde 2024 to 2025 webinar here. I'm going to show you how to go from tragic to magic with horoscopes for all signs and everything that you need to know about this upcoming Mars retrograde that kicks off officially December 6th and will take us all the way through February 23rd. Mars does not go retrograde as often as a lot of the other planets, so this is a big deal. All right, so let's get into it. So, in this Mars retrograde magic webinar, we're going to talk a little bit about what exactly is Mars retrograde, some high frequency benefits of Mars retrograde, everything you need to know about the upcoming Mars retrograde, the starseed astrology and mofo magic of the Mars retrograde cycles, and of course, horoscopes for all 12 signs. So, what exactly is Mars retrograde? So, a retrograde occurs when a planet appears to move backwards in the sky from our vantage point on Earth. Planets don't actually move backwards, but this is an optical illusion based on the difference in orbital paths, and it does have a lot of mysterious and powerful effects. So, when retrograde, what that planet rules is more inward focused or more introspective. Sometimes things get thrown off or feel a little more intense, especially with inner planets like Mars. Mars, the red planet, rules things like the three F's, how we fight, fuck, and flee. Okay. So motivation, will, drive, action, competition, how we go to battle, how we initiate conflict or avoid conflict, war, aggression, sex drive, passion, physical and primal instincts, the process of individuation as well and self sufficiency. Mars is often associated with emotions like anger and frustration and considered a malefic in astrology. Mars also rules things like sharp instruments, knives, scissors, and violence. All right. So, what exactly is the Mars retrograde? So, when Mars turns retrograde, it's roughly every 2 years or approximately 26 months, and it'll be in a retrograde motion for about 3 months. So, it does not go retrograde as often as Mercury, which can be 3 to 4 times a year. This is more rare. And however, because of the pre shadow, the lead up, the build up phase, and the post shadow, the fade away, the expanse of Mars retrograde covers nearly 7 months' time. The shadow period starts nearly 2 months prior to stationing retrograde and lasts about 2 months after Mars stations direct. Most people don't feel the effects of Mars retrograde until it enters or stations retrograde during the actual stationary period. So, whether you're typically aggressive, assertive, or more passive, Mars retrograde will force you to confront what's been simmering beneath the surface, reshaping the way that you assert yourself and express anger. There are sometimes traumatic things that can come up. There are sometimes emotionally intense things that can come up. However, you can turn those triggers into magic if you know how to work with retrograde cycles. The key to thriving during this retrograde is focusing on healing and re-magic, revisiting, reigniting passions, really getting to the root of things and making the necessary internal shifts for yourself. So once it stations direct, you're going to feel so much lighter. Okay, so high frequency benefits of Mars retrograde. I say this in all of my retrograde videos, so you may have heard it before, but retrogrades are not bad. Repeat after me. Retrogrades are not bad. They're normal cycles of life, right? Sometimes we need to revisit things. We need to do a little introspection. And Mars retrograde is actually very beneficial if you know how to use it. So here are the 10 high frequency benefits of Mars retrograde. Number one, it is an ideal time to re examine where you're going and why. Number two, It encourages you to face and find your authentic feelings, things that have been buried, things that you've suppressed, things that you've been avoiding. Those are going to come up to the surface. And while that can be uncomfortable, it helps you to really identify, what do I actually feel about this situation, this person, this place, this thing, this passion, this hobby, this project, and why? And that is magic. Number 3 high frequency benefit of Mars retrograde, it is an invitation to be radically honest with yourself about your true desires. What do you really want and why? Number 4, we can revisit unresolved situations for closure. That involves trauma, that involves people, that involves relationships, that involves how we're taking action in the world or not taking action, conflicts, all kinds of different things. We can revisit those unresolved situations to finally get the clarity that we need to give ourselves closure or to get closure. Number 5, 10 high frequency benefit of Mars retrograde. Number 5 is it's ideal time for a rage release ritual or a sacred rage ritual, right? There's a big difference between just being angry and lashing out at people and just kind of being a dick and honoring your anger and your rage, right? And knowing how to release that or transmute that, how to alchemize that to fuel your passions. Mars retrograde gives us more space to do that. It kind of forces us to do that. So if you are someone that's not comfortable expressing your anger in a healthy way, this is a good time to learn how to do that, because that will benefit you significantly. Anger is not bad. We just need to know how to work with it for our benefit. Number 6, high frequency benefit of Mars retrograde. It's a good time to wait on that tattoo. Okay. You hold off on the tattoo you've been thinking about getting, the haircut. It's probably a good time to slow your roll on things that involve sharp instruments like acupuncture. There's a chance things could go sideways, that you're going to regret having done that after. So try to get your tattoo or your haircut before December 6th or after February 23rd, 2025. Okay. Number 7, high frequency benefit of Mars retrograde. It really forces us to slow the F down and just be. We live in a hustle bustle, fast paced world that's always focusing on the next thing, the to-do list, do more, do more, do more. And that is so toxic. So retrograde cycles, especially Mars retrograde cycles, really forces us to slow our roll on forward motion, on output, output, output. It's okay and so healthy to just allow ourselves to rest, to just allow ourselves to be. And honestly, the time of this Mars retrograde during like December and the early, right, part of 2025 is a good time to slow down anyways and rest a little more. So at least the initial part of it, I think, will be good in that regard. Number 8, high frequency benefit of Mercury retrograde. Discover new ways. You can discover new ways to merge motivation and meaning. Now, a lot of us, myself included, sometimes struggle with things like depression, anxiety, PTSD, avoiding, not feeling in the mood to do something, right? Procrastination, all of those types of things. So during a Mars retrograde, we can take a little personal stock, a little inventory internally. What really is meaningful to me? What really motivates me? Getting clarity on that so you can be a self-starter. Once Mars goes direct, you're going to have a little bit more insight into, how do I self-motivate? How can I get going? I need to make sure there's some important meaning or value attached to the things I'm doing. Number 9, high frequency benefit of Mars retrograde. We can see the path forward with a fresh set of eyes. So if you've been feeling blocked, stagnant, stuck, something's not working in your life, this Mars retrograde cycle really helps you get a fresh perspective. So once Mars goes direct, it's like, okay, I know how to move forward now in a renewed way. And finally, number 10, high frequency benefit of Mars retrograde. It's an opportunity to tap into magic. redo, revise, reflect, revisit, recharge, repair, reprogram, and remember. You have free will to choose your path forward in alignment with your truest desires. It's not the most ideal time to start brand new things, but it's a great time to relaunch something that kind of fizzled out before. All right. So the lowdown on this Mars retrograde. So some important key dates here you're going to want to keep in mind. The pre-shadow phase of Mars retrograde kicked off October 3rd. It will lead all the way up to December 5th, 2024. Mars stations retrograde on December 6th, 2024. And it will be retrograde all the way through February 2023 when it stations direct, February 2025. And the post shadow period will be from February 24th to May 2nd, 2025. In the tropical zodiac system, this Mars retrograde is going to be in Leo and Cancer. And in sidereal, it will be in Cancer and Gemini. So themes around passions, creativity, deep emotions, and healing anger are all themes of this Mars retrograde. And in both systems, it will begin its retrograde conjunct some important galactic points, which we're going to get into. So during the retrograde, Mars is going to make some big aspects. It stations retrograde conjunct one of my favorite galaxies, the UFO galaxy in the Lynx constellation. Looks like a UFO. I'm going to be doing an entire webinar on the astrology of galaxies. So stay tuned for that. And it'll be at 6 degrees Leo tropical, 11 degrees Cancer in the sidereal. Then on December 20th, Mars retrograde is going to be opposite Ceres, one of the minor planets, considered the higher octave of the moon. So on that day, we're really being called to revisit something potentially traumatic, potentially vulnerable, to heal and really nurture ourselves. And it involves an axis of fire and air. So it's about nurturing our spirit and our minds, nurturing things that feel good to the soul, to the spirit, and a little mindfulness, right? On your thoughts, your internal self-talk. Are you beating yourself up? Are you working on subconscious reprogramming? Good time to really dive into self-care on that day. Then on January 1st through the 5th of 2025, that first week of the brand new year, Mars retrograde is going to be opposite Pluto, trine the north node, and sextile the south node. So the opposition with Pluto is a little bit of a challenging aspect that does require some integration between personal power and shadows, Pluto. And there is this harmonious energy between Mars, especially as it's inward focused, and your unique soul mission, your past lives, parallel lives, and your future life, the future timeline you're working on creating with your North Node path. So, and this is important because the lunar nodes are going to be right at 1 to 0 degrees during that time, right before they shift into new signs. So that first week of January is a really good day for clarifying, where am I going? What do I want to be doing with my life? Am I on my soul mission path? And if not, I need to really figure that out. And because it's more introspective, it's not so much about taking action. It's about really doing that inner work and clarifying, what is it that I want to take action on come the end of February. Then we have Mars retrograde conjunct Monoceros, January 6th through 11th. It's time to reactivate your inner magic, and the unicorn Monoceros is here to help. So a visit to the enchanted forest, that could be in a meditation journey, or that might be visiting a literal forest, because connecting with the energy of the unicorn, it's fun, it's sparkly, it's magical, and it's gonna help you to really reactivate like your inner fire a little bit as well. Then we also have Mars retrograde opposite the sun, January 16th, 2025. So making internal changes during that time allows you to really express yourself more effectively moving forward. You probably will feel a bit sluggish on that day or low energy, so don't be surprised and try not to force things. Mars retrograde is going to be square Eris and Chiron, January 19th, 2025. This is another big trauma triggering day, a trauma healing activation day. Knowing this ahead of time, though, you can plan thoughtfully. Is that a day where you maybe don't want to interact as much with a difficult family member, right? Is that maybe a day you want to take off work if you know work has really been triggering your core wounds? And to deepen into self-care, revisit a creative outlet. Mars retrograde in general is a beautiful time to revisit passion projects, creative projects, any type of like business projects that you tried before and they fizzled out or they just fell off to the wayside. Reconnect with them. Then we have Mars retrograde trine Venus and asteroid Merlin on January 26, 2025. So there's some type of breakthrough or insight that's coming your way related to relationships. And you can literally create magic on this day by changing your perspectives. And then the final big Mars retrograde aspect is Mars retrograde trine Saturn, February 7th through the 10th of 2025. Those few days, energy is moving a little more harmoniously between actions and responsibilities. So it's a good day to finish old projects or relaunch something that you tried previously that didn't work. It could actually really work for you this time. Okay, and then we have some starseed astrology and galactic magic activations happening during the Mars retrograde. As I mentioned before, Mars is going to station retrograde conjunct the UFO galaxy in the top right there. And it's going to backtrack over the following fixed stars and deep space power activators. And I have the coordinates listed out there for you in both zodiacal systems, depending on which one you prefer to use. I like both, but you decide which one. So it's definitely going to be moving over the Lynx constellation, the Unicorn Monasteros constellation, as well as Procyon, Pollux, Castor, another Monasteros unicorn star, and then the intergalactic Wanderer, which is featured in the bottom left picture. This is a star system in the Lynx constellation as well. And it's super interesting because a couple of years ago, Lynx was a constellation that I started really diving into and researching. And I've been pulled back into revisiting it just almost exactly as the Mars retrograde shadow period began, because this is a new spirit guide, a new star guide, a new power animal that's coming online for me and the collective too. So it's something I'll be talking a bit more about here, revisiting with you guys more here to connect and anchor to that cosmic family. And then finally, Mars is going to station direct conjunct one of the stars in Canis Major near Sirius. Okay, so let's get into the good stuff. Horoscopes for all 12 signs. Make sure that you are paying attention to your sun, your moon, your rising sign, and your natal Mars sign. All four are going to be important for you to pay attention to. And I will link below a little Mars calculator. If you don't know like what your natal Mars sign is in, you can go to that site and just plug in your info to find out. Okay, so first off, we have Aries. So Aries, Mars is your ruler. So you can feel off in subtle ways throughout the entire Mars retrograde, especially as it kicks off in your 5th house, and then it'll backtrack into your 4th house. So you might struggle with having some time to connect to your heart, to enjoy yourself, and may have little patience for anything that feels like work during the Mars retrograde. Deep emotional issues around children, creativity, or romance could surface. Passive aggressive behavior from you or others could really ignite old conflicts, so be mindful of that. Focus on healing unresolved anger, reigniting lost passions, particularly in your family life. Use this time to revisit old wounds that need healing. You can get the clarity that you need during the Mars retrograde. You can move through something that was blocked for you previously internally and allow yourself to finally be free of it. So really like do that. You deserve that magic of being free from what's ever blocking you. All right, Taurus, sun, moon, rising, and natal Mars in Taurus. So Mars retrograde begins in your 4th house and will backtrack into your third. So it can make you extra emotional and stir up frustration, aggravation, irritation, especially as it moves through family and communication sectors. So it could stir up old arguments, conflicts, miscommunication. That could be with family members, it could be with neighbors or siblings, or just generally, right? Miscommunications could lead to covert conflict. So not overt, but covert. So just be really careful with your words, take lots of breaks, be really thoughtful about not initiating a conflict, right? Don't start no ish, won't be no ish is really what Mars retrograde's about. Focus inward, deal with your own stuff. But if someone's not able to listen, if they're unable to hear you, if they're being super passive aggressive with you, it's check you later, see you later, right? Or maybe TTYN, talk to you never. So use this Mars retrograde Taurus signs to revisit creative projects or hobbies that you've let fall to the wayside. Avoid starting new disputes, avoid starting brand new things, but you could reignite your love for learning, for writing, or any type of creative communication that excites you. All right, Gemini. Gemini, sun, moon, rising, and natal Mars in Gemini. This retrograde kicks off in your third house and will eventually backtrack to your second. And so it can make you a little more argumentative than usual, quick to fight with your words, and likely you're going to have to really work on not saying things you're going to regret later. Your finances and self-worth could come under review during the retrograde when it moves back into the second house. You might find yourself revisiting old financial plans or investments or income streams. Be mindful of impulsive spending during the Mars retrograde, okay? Instead, try to really reignite your motivation to save or manage finances better and why that's meaningful to you and how that's going to help you. Avoid big financial decisions. Revisit past strategies and relaunch them with a refined approach. If you're frustrated, get to the heart of why, because you're going to have some more clarity on that. All right, Cancer, sun, moon, rising, and natal Mars in Cancer. This retrograde can make you feel pretty stuck, and it can cause some frustration and annoyance as it moves through your second and first houses, really activating your sense of self-worth. Old emotional wounds, particularly those related to yourself, even your body, could flare up, forcing you to confront deep insecurities. It's uncomfortable initially, but the magic is sometimes in the poison, right? The medicine is in the poison. We have to feel it to heal it, and then give yourself the gift of changing your mind about something, of changing how you see yourself too, especially with the activations that are happening for you, Cancer. This is your chance to heal and finally let go of some type of past grievance, especially if you've been passive or overly accommodating to others' needs at the expense of your own. Focus on emotional healing and expressing your needs. It's time to put yourself first without feeling guilty about it. If you can figure out why, you can get yourself unstuck. So make meaning of this time to do some of that inner work. Leo, sun, moon, rising, and natal Mars in Leo. This retrograde starts in your first house, the house of the self, the house of the body, how other people are perceiving you. And then it's eventually going to backtrack into the 12th. So this means that you can be easily angered, sometimes super frustrated, and it's bringing up these kind of like core wounds about identity, self-expression, personal drive. Those are coming into focus. So this is a good time to use this Mars retrograde to refine your self-image, rekindle your passion for personal projects that really light you up, that really make you feel like who you are. Reignite your creative pursuits, focus on expressing your authentic self. Avoid forcing anything new, okay? Try to really take a step back and leave room for your plans and schedule a lot of breaks. Go easy on yourself. Don't rush into a fight. Mind your triggers. Take a breather before you speak if you're triggered. Super important. And focus on taking a second chance at something. You're going to need a little more rest to do that. But if you give yourself the proper intermittent rest, you're going to get a second chance on something big. Okay. Virgo, sun, moon, rising, and natal Mars in Virgo. Okay, this is starting off this Mars retrograde in your 12th house. So it's stirring up some deep seated fears, potentially some hidden enemies or unconscious habits that have been sabotaging your progress. So this is an ideal time for inner healing and retreating from the day to day. Spending even some time in solitude, or if you can go to like a healing retreat, that could be really beneficial during the Mars retrograde. You may also revisit health related issues or projects that you started but just didn't complete. Retreat, reflect, revisit past spiritual places or previous healing modalities that really helped you in the past. Bringing those back during this Mars retrograde can be so helpful for you. And there's a lot of things that can zap your energy and make you feel constantly drained, like old issues from the past, subconscious issues, karmic issues can even be more prominent. However, all of this rest, recharging, and retreating that you're going to be doing is going to help you finally let those things go. All right, Libra, sun, moon, rising, and natal Mars in Libra. Mars retrogrades in your 11th house and can cause some disputes, especially old, unresolved disputes with friends or group settings. And that demands some type of attention or resolution on your end. So this is a time to really revisit your role within these groups, whether that's a friend group, a spiritual group, some type of community group, and reignite your passion for causes or collaborations that excite you. Humanitarian pursuits, focusing on that. If you're hanging out or kicking it with a group that doesn't care about those things, it could be made very apparent to you during the Mars retrograde that you need to switch up who you're hanging out with. Avoid starting new social conflicts. Resolve the old ones if you can, or detach until it goes direct. Try to reconnect with some friends and relaunch group efforts with fresh enthusiasm for the things that really create meaning for you in your social circle. Try to give yourself room to be as independent as you can. Push yourself outside of the comfort zone, work on beneficial changes, get excited by your future, and take lots of breaks because midway through the retrograde, it's going to backtrack into the 12th house for you. You're going to need that last half of Mars retrograde, more time to recharge, a little more solitude, and that's okay. Give that to yourself. All right, Scorpio. So Scorpio, sun, moon, rising, and natal Mars in Scorpio. This Mars retrograde kicks off in your 10th house of public reputation, personal standing, business, and you may feel like you're experiencing just one setback after another. You've been working really hard on something, Scorpio, and you're just not seeing the results pay off, and it's really frustrating you. There's some type of issues coming up regarding your career, your reputation, your public image, your legacy as well, what you're here to leave behind, that are coming up for you to really review and look at, like, am I aligned with what's meaningful for me in that area of my life? You may need to revisit an old professional project or relationship, refine your approach, watch for passive aggressive behavior at work, and really focus on revisiting career goals, healing professional relationships. I will say for Scorpio placements, this is a great time to relaunch something that you launched before in your business, at work that fizzled out. It didn't land how you wanted it to. It could be time to revisit it, to revamp it or relaunch it again. It could go significantly better for you this time around. And this is a good time to work on an old goal again, too, around career. Make that magic happen, Scorpio. All right, Sagittarius, sun, moon, rising, and natal, Mars and Sag. So Mars retrograde begins in your 9th house, and you might feel this urge to revisit old travel plans, educational goals, higher philosophical pursuits, or spiritual pursuits as well. This period's perfect for you for reigniting your passion for learning or teaching or both. They go hand in hand, but really trying to avoid starting brand new ventures. So, like if you used to study astrology, or you used to be really into breath work, or you used to go to a specific church meeting or something like that, but you've fallen off on it, this is a good time to pick that back up, to revisit that. If you previously visited Egypt and you want to plan another trip to Egypt, this could be a good time to do that because you've already been there. But planning a long distance trip somewhere you've never been, I would hold off on that until Mars goes direct. So Sagittarius placements reflect on your belief system and long-term goals. You can really revisit old academic spiritual pursuits that light up a fire in you. And it's a great time to pick back up. Yeah, a course of study, reconnect with a mentor, even too, just to revisit like belief systems. Do I still believe that? Does that still spark a fire in me, a meaning in me? If not, you can let it go. If it does, reconnect with it. Lots of magic happening there. All right, Capricorn. So Mars retrogrades in your eighth house, which deals with shared resources, intimacy, and deep, deep transformation. This is a big activation of magic, really, for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising, and natal Mars in Capricorn. Yes, there's some very intense, potentially psychological, emotional things that are going to come up during this retrograde for you, but it's also like an initiation as well. So while it might stir up different things, bring old wounds to the surface, it's a good time to revisit joint financial goals, investments, or big emotional blocks that you know need healing. Avoid being impulsive in decisions, focus on healing, financial planning, transform and rise so you can emerge from this retrograde in a powerful position. So connect with whatever helps you heal and move through things. Next up, we have Aquarius, Sun, Moon, Rising, and natal Mars in Aquarius. Mars retrograde starts in your seventh house of relationships. So that's really taking the center stage for you. Old conflicts with partners may surface, forcing you to address unresolved issues. Use this time to heal wounds and reignite the spark in your relationship. If things have been feeling a little dull with your committed partnerships, it's a great time to reignite them. Do not start new conflicts. Do not bring up new drama. Avoid the drama as best you can and work on the relationship issues. That might also involve you working on them solitarily, really getting clarity on like, what's my part in this? Really being honest with yourself. How am I contributing to these issues? Be honest with yourself because then you can choose to change your mind. You can choose to take different action once Mars goes direct, and that can be life changing for your relationships. Focus on giving time to healthy relationships that you do have and getting distance from those you don't. You also might want to reconnect with someone from the past as well. Be really mindful that that's a safe, healthy person, that there are boundaries in place, and don't be impulsive in that reconnection as well. Okay. And last but certainly not least, we have Pisces, Sun, Moon, Rising, and natal Mars in Pisces. So Mars retrograde is going to be initiated in your sixth house of health and daily routine, pushing you to revisit old health routines and work habits. If you let certain self-care practices fall by the wayside, now is the time to bring them back. Take extra good care of your health during this Mars retrograde. Reignite old health routines, refine your daily habits, focus on healing and finding balance in your work-life balance and your day-to-day routines. This is a good time for you to be productive, but you need to make sure that you're taking breaks. That's true for all of the signs, I will say. If you don't give yourself breaks, stress is going to mount, so take the breaks. We're not going to be able to just steamroll forward working 12-hour days during the Mars retrograde. You're going to burn out and have a miserable start to 2025. So really get on top of your self-care and create some healthy routines around that, especially revisiting routines that you know have helped you in the past now. Do that now, before Mars even goes retrograde, because it's just going to help you so much more. All right. And then I wanted to highlight some important Mars retrograde recommendations. You can take these or leave these, but these are pretty standard across the astrological community. So do these during the Mars retrograde. Do revisit unsettled situations, especially if they involve sex or conflict. However, don't let anger or frustration get the best of you. And above all, do not launch an attack online. Do not start, if you start trolling someone online, if you start getting into a fight with someone online, it's going to backfire. It's going to be bigger than necessary. So you're going to have to sometimes just bite your tongue, let it ride, block and delete, right? Do, excuse me, do Do reunite with exes, old flames, or people who shared your vision, such as business associates. Don't officially start a new relationship. Try to not officially start a new relationship. That includes becoming official, getting engaged, or becoming married. It's cuffing season. A lot of people get proposals during Mars retrogrades, that are in December. I would put that off if possible, because you can regret that decision once Mars goes direct. Do return to old passions you've lost touch with. Don't push yourself too hard, especially if you're tired or burnt out. Be mindful of rest. Rest is part of the re magic. It's got the RE in front of it. So rest. Give yourself the magical gift of rest. It sounds so mundane, but sometimes the mundane magic is the most powerful. Nothing feels as good as a good night's sleep. And you can wake up refreshed to deal with whatever you need to the next day. Okay. So do pick up stalled projects and revise them. Don't launch new projects or start anything new. Okay. If it's something you've been working on for months, that's not new. Like I'm working on a book. I've been working on it for a year. Will I finish it and launch it during the Mars retrograde? Maybe, but it's not new, right? I've been working on it for a long time. But that also means trying to not sign contracts or buy property. If you do have to, there's no way around that. Go slowly with that process and read the fine print. Do relax and surrender to the flow of the universe. Don't, as best you can, make any major life decisions, especially if you're triggered. That's just a good rule of thumb across the board. Do focus on how you fight, how you heal, and letting go. Don't have major elective surgeries. Okay. That involves cosmetic surgery, especially. You can and should have any surgeries that are absolutely necessary and needed and authorized by a professional, but elective surgeries, please hold off on those. Things that involve sharp instruments, hold off on those. Buying a new Ginsu knife set, hold off on that. Okay. Buying the samurai sword for your husband for Christmas, hold off on that unless you bought it before December 6th. Okay. I'm not sure who's buying these giant knives all the time for presents, but whatever. Knives are cool. So that's the overview on Mars retrograde recommendations. You take them or leave them, you guys. And you can always comment below, ask questions if you are unsure of something. Okay. All right. So I also want to thank you guys so much for watching this. And please be sure to sign up for my weekly newsletter, the Galactic Gazette, so you can get Starseed astrology updates beamed straight to you from the mothership. It's so nice to have detailed weekly updates every single day for the entire week. You get those right in your inbox Monday morning, along with some other beautiful art that I've created. And I think it really helps you to remember just important tools throughout the week in the magical starseed astrology way. So I'll link that below if you want to sign up to receive my free weekly newsletter. It's loaded with all kinds of goodies for subscribers. And thank you guys again for watching. Please take a minute to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Comment below with any questions. And I hope that you remember the most important thing about this entire Mars retrograde webinar. You can turn triggers into magic. You can turn trauma into magic. You can turn the worst dumpster fire train wrecks into magic, okay? Because you're magical. So never forget that. Love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.